Okay, welcome to this first video on section 10.4, logarithmic functions. So the first thing we want to do is talk about what is a logarithm. So often we think of an exponential function as having this input and output, like f of x equals 2 to the x. And the x variable is our independent variable, and y, or f of x, is our dependent variable. And so we think of the input as the x, the value you're plugging in. So for this example, if I plug in a 3 for x, I'll get an 8 as an answer. If I plug in a negative 1 for x, I'll get 2 to the negative 1, or 1/2, as the answer, as the output. Right, if I plug in 0, what does that give us? Yeah, that's right, 2 to the 0 is 1. If I plug in a 4, I get 2 to the 4, 16. So when we're finding its inverse, we want the function where I plug in 16 right? I want a function that looks like this. We're going to call this y equals f inverse of x. When I plug in 8, I'll get 3 as an answer. When I plug in 1/2, I'll get negative 1 as an answer. When I plug in 1, I'll get 0 as an answer. And if I plug in 16 into my inverse, yep, I'll get 4 as an answer. So the way we found an inverse in the past was to do this switch and solve technique. And the way it worked was step 1, switch the x and the y. So switch the x and the y. The y's become x's and the x's become y's. All of them. However, there's only one y and x, so they just switch places. And then step 2, solve for y. So this is the place where it would be handy, it would be useful to have a device, a mechanism in place where I could get the y by itself. And that's where a logarithm comes into play. If you have an expression like this and you need to solve for y, it's rewritten as y equals log base 2 of x. So we say y equals log, or you can say logarithm, base 2 of x. And it's optional for you to write it in parentheses. And the reason why is this is the input. This is your independent variable. And now this is your output. So, the definition of a logarithm. Now let's talk about what is a logarithm. So we'll call this the logarithmic definition. What does it mean? So if b is greater than 0 and b is not 1, so greater than 0, positive, but not 1, then y equals log base b of x means x equals b to the y power. For every x and every real number y. That basically means for every real x and every real y. So, I can rewrite expressions now. So let's practice a few. I'm going to say 3 squared equals 9. This is an exponential expression. Over here, we're going to have a logarithmic expression. So this is my base. So I say the base of this power, this exponential expression, is 3. So when I write my logarithm, it's logarithm base 3. Notice the way I write this is as a subscript. Of 9 equals 2. So the input is the 9 for the logarithm, and the output is 2. The answer to the logarithm is the exponent. Let me say that again. The answer to a logarithm is what is the exponent. Let's try another one. Let's do 5 cubed equals 125. How would I rewrite that as a log? Well, let's see. The base is 5. So logarithm base 5 of 125 equals 3. The answer to a log is the exponent. Okay, I broke my rule. That was supposed to be blue. So let's see here. Log base 5, 125 equals 3. This is the way Mr. Etheridge writes them. Probably if you see Mr. Earl or me, a lot of times we'll put this in parentheses, so it might look like this, because it's an argument. Meaning, not that we fight about it, but this is an input. It's log base 5 of 125 equals 3. Alright, let's try if I'm going to give you the log and you're going to tell me the exponent. Let's do log base 7 of 1/7 equals -1. So take a minute, rewrite this in exponential form. Okay. This 7 is your base. The answer to a log, in this case -1, is your power, 1/7. Okay, let's try a harder one. This one won't have numbers that you're familiar with. I'll say a to the 3rd power equals k. Rewrite this as a log. Okay. Remember, the answer to a logarithm is the exponent. The answer to a logarithm is the exponent. So this better say equals 3 here. The base is a, so I'll write log base a. Well, that only leaves one other part of k. Or you could have written it log base a k. Now, if you're writing this on a line, I'm going to do a better job and make this neat. If you're writing this on a line, the a is a subscript. The k is in the same line. See, it's on the same line. It's not the power of that. So, because the answer is 3, the answer is the power. That's how you rewrite a logarithm. Okay, thank you for watching this video, and keep tuned in for video number 2. Have a good day.